guys, it's Dean with the Two Party Podcast. I'm here with David Weiss. We had a little scheduling incident, but I have been really trying to get David on here to feed you guys some great information. This guy is gonna really kind of blow our mind with a little bit of the stuff he knows. So first off, I want to give David an opportunity to first introduce himself. Tell us a little bit about yourself, David. Tell us a little bit about your background, and just where you're from, how you got to where you are now, and we'll move on.
All right, Dean, thanks for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to talk with you. I'll kind of keep it. I was just a normal guy growing up. I worked for corporate America, and every day I had a buddy of mine, Tim, and we would, in the lunchroom, we would be talking about some deceptions in the world. We were talking about how the Federal Reserve isn't federal, how it's a private bank. And every day more and more people started gathering around us, and we started digging in deeper into deceptions. And one day we got an opportunity to do a podcast out of a New York City comedy club, actually. It was a studio they had there. And we called it Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole, where we dug into the deceptions of the world. And that was weekly. And then in the third year, people started sending me, "Hey, Dave, check out this flat earth stuff." And I wouldn't watch a 1-minute video. I blocked people from our social media for being so stupid.
Right.
And it was really pissing me off at one point. I'm just like, how are people so stupid? I mean, it's obvious. There's a million reasons we live on the ball. Boats over the curve, sticks and shadows, day and night, seasons. All of that proves the ball. So I thought. So then one day I'm speaking with a fellow researcher, Sophia Smallstorm, about some crap that was going on in the news. And I said, I'm just so amazed how much deception there is in this world. And she goes, "Oh, David, it's worse than that." I'm like, "What do you mean?" She goes, "I think the earth might be flat." Literally, I just got finished banning people from our Facebook. And I'm just like, "Are you kidding me? What the hell's wrong with you?" And she goes, "Here, watch these videos." And she sent me over Mark Sargent's Clues and another video. And I started watching that. And I was like, okay, that's interesting, but I'm just going to prove the ball. There's a million reasons.
Right.
I just need one proof of the ball and I'm done.
Right.
And 6 years later, here I am, host of the Flat Earth Podcast, interviewing with you. I'm on shows, 5, 6, 10 shows a week now. I quit my job. I worked for corporate America. Then I started my own company, was doing super well. And then I'm like, this is more important because I want you to wait until the end, because we're going to go through all the objections that you can come up with. And then you're going to throw your hands in the air and you're going to say, why the lie? Why would they lie? Why would they lie?
Right.
That's where you're going to go. And we're going to answer that at the end because it's better at the end. Okay. So let's just find out that there is a lie. And then we can answer why there's a lie.
So this is great. And I love that the audience gets to hear this, because again, I've watched your videos. I've listened to some of your podcasts, just trying to book up to getting to where I know you as a guest, and I doing my research, and I love every bit of it. And I have particularly, just like you just said, like you were blocking people on Facebook and stuff. I have particularly one friend, and I'm going to say his name, Brad Kingston, and he's got a brother named Joe Kingston, and they have been pushing this stuff, the flat earth theory, for like, I don't even know, 4 or 5 years now. They've just been pumping social media with this, and they'll do it on the sly. It's not all the time, but then they'll throw one in there. And everybody, all of our friends growing up together, are like, what the hell are you guys talking about?
I think it was Mark Twain that's quoted as saying, it's easier to deceive somebody. It's harder to convince them they've been deceived.
Right.
Whoever said it, it's a great quote. And that is the truth. And we've been programmed that we live on a ball before we can talk, before we went to preschool. Okay, Sesame Street is all globe programming. The Teletubbies, all of this stuff. Not that I had Teletubbies when I was a kid. Every schoolroom, kindergarten class has a globe in the front, right?
Yeah,
Rockefeller funded globe.
Of course.
And nobody likes having their ball taken away.
Yeah, and yet there, at the end of the day, there's never been an alternative, has there? I mean, we've all it's a globe. It's just all we know. You know
what's funny is people say, you're a moron. We've known it for 500 years. The Greeks figured it out. Okay. And so that's something that we've been programmed into. And let's jump in right with that one. The Greeks figured out, a mathematician from Said named Eratosthenes figured out with a well and sticks and shadows that the Earth must be curved. And the way he did it was there was a well, and on a certain day of the year, the sun was directly over that well. So if you put a stick straight up in the air, there would be no shadow.
Right.
And then he had a cohort 500 miles away. I don't know if they had cell phones or really, how he coordinated
that was a long
this.
string in cans.
And he put a stick up and it had a shadow, did some quick geometry, trigonometry, and bam, figured out the size of the Earth within like 2%. Carl Sagan programmed us with this in the original Cosmos. And that's a great story. But I can get on my table, I can put 2 sticks on my table. I can put a light directly over one of them, and then the other one will have a shadow. Right. So I can do some math and tell you the size of the sphere that my table is, but in fact, it's a flat table. Right. So the sticks and shadows works well in the flat Earth model, but Carl Sagan never told us that. Here's the amazing part. Aristophanes, he's a mathematician back 500 years ago, figured out the size of the Earth. Is he now a famous mathematician? Answer is absolutely. He's the most famous. He's amazing. Right. There was other mathematicians that came out of that area in the years following, the generations after, and none of them ever mentioned Aristophanes. Nowhere. That's like writing a history of the Chicago Bulls and leaving out Michael Jordan completely. Right. But so if you go and really do your research, the oldest book that you can find that has the story of Aristophanes in it is in the 1980s when it was inserted into the Rockefeller textbooks for schools. Huh. It's a made-up story. It never happened. They were teaching flat Earth in America up to the 1920s. Okay? And they've changed history since then. So how long have we been sold it's a globe? 100 years. Yeah. And again, I'm 44 years old. The only thing I remember in my classrooms was a globe. They always had the flat map where the Earth was stretched out. They peeled it back like an orange. Those were what we always had. And of course, as a kid, you do kind of you're like, well, what if? You always have your imagination. You're like, what if? But because we're educated to be taught that that's what it is, that's what we always believe. Right. The Peterson, the Gleason's map, yes, which is the flat Earth map, which is if you don't know what it looks like, just look at the UN flag. It was the map, of the world for a long time. And then it was taken out of everything in the 1950s, sometime in the 1950s, where it was just removed from school books. It was just, they don't want people knowing about it because that's where we live. Now, is that map perfect? No. But again, the globe is far worse. So if we look, what is the, because this is always the one that comes up. Well, what about pictures? What do we, all we see is pictures from space. And you have the people that you have the people that are like, well, flat Earth, this is how I can explain it. So what is the pictures? Why do we always get just the pictures but nothing else? Yeah, so I love the words. So words have meaning in this world. And correct. NASA only uses the words pictures and images. Images. They refer it's always to Earth. Images, correct. They never say photograph. Yep. They also admit that all of the images of Earth that they've given us are constructs, are done in Photoshop, are done with strips of data. Right. Okay. And they're wrapped around a ball in Photoshop, and they're paintings before they had Photoshop. They admit it. This is not a conspiracy theory. One of their visual artists named Robert Simmons did a famous interview where he talked about the blue marble, which was the one that was on everyone's iPhone when it first came out. It's in every textbook, how he created this from data. And he was Command Z all the time. He was adding clouds. If you look at it, there's stepped and repeated clouds. All of the images, which are very few, that they propose to us as images of Earth are clearly and admittedly fake. That's one of the amazing things that the more I've delved into this a little bit and given it some thought, the more I think about it is, and you made a very good point right there. With NASA being NASA and all their technology, why do we only have, dude, I know teenagers that have 3,000-4,000 pictures on their phone.
Why does the history of NASA and our space program only provide us dozens of photos? You know what I mean?
There's a funny meme. I think it was Neil Armstrong. Picture him. It says, went to the moon, took 6 photos, and then a picture of Kim Kardashian in the bathroom, went to the bathroom, took 57 photos.
Right. And so again, the history that you're discussing, this guy's making models and paintings and doing this different imaging, almost like you do in Hollywood. If NASA is NASA,
just like you do in Hollywood.
Correct. If NASA is NASA and the Hubble telescope does what it does, we should have hundreds of millions of images since the space program began, but we don't.
So we'll go into NASA a little bit here. So the ball defenders will say, what about the Japanese Himawari 8 satellite? This satellite's in a geosynchronous orbit. I forget how many hundred, hugely far away from Earth, and It takes a new image of Earth every 10 or 15 minutes. Okay. Well, some whistleblower in NASA linked us a link to their private FTP server where they have all of the images that they're using for the Himawari 8 satellite. Basically, it was the blue marble flat map wrapped on a globe, superimposed with current radar data. They just took radar data and wrapped it on, and all the images were there, and we could see the dates and the times and everything, and them making them. So and we have videos showing the server, showing everything. So even the globe trolls, globe shills that are out there trying to gatekeep people, they don't even use that anymore because it's totally been debunked. So here's the point I want to make. Excuse me. I'm choking to death. Excuse me.
There's no need to die
excited sometimes, and then
there's no need to die on me.
We
have to get the evidence before you die.
They're getting me. They made me choke. So where was I going with that? NASA is dear to people's hearts because it links us to Star Wars and Star Trek and all of that.
Earliest memories of space.
Right. And Elon Musk and everything. If you caught NASA faking something once, is that enough to discount everything they do?
Right.
It really
That's
is.
a good question. Yeah. Right.
So people say, what about the International Space Station? We have, I would say hundreds, but it's probably thousands now of videos of catching them hanging from wires and harnesses in fading in and fading out of scenes, showing that they're not even where they are, that the 2 astronauts talking aren't even in the same room, passing hands through people's faces and stuff. All you need is one of those. And then the other thing is when we see them doing spacewalks, do you know that there's where they do their training? It's called now I'm spacing on the name. It's called the National Buoyancy Lab. It's a gigantic swimming pool with a replica of the space station in it. And they go in there and they swim. When you watch these spacewalks, you always catch little bubbles. Sometimes you see a little bubble escaping from underneath a fold or something. But sometimes the bubble will go sideways. And that's because they're filming sideways. You can film any way you want in water. Mm-hmm. So they fake everything. So they're faking the space station. You got to unwind that all the way to they're faking everything. Here's where we stand, and we can pretty much prove it if you just take the time. Nobody's ever been to space because space is not as described. And all of those rockets that we see go up, nobody is ever on them, including the Challenger.
And that's interesting. And I've heard that before as well. And then I go back to I've flown on a plane, I've seen the Earth from above, and I've seen in the plane, the clouds above. How do we break that down? How do we break down what we can see with our own eyes, or are we deceived by atmosphere?
You're deceived by everything, mostly your mind programming. So first, Neil deGrasse Tyson, the high priest of scientism, he says that at 130,000 feet, where Felix Baumgarten jumped out of his Red Bull, you cannot see the curvature. Okay? Yeah. He says you cannot see the curvature. But people go on airplanes and think they saw the curvature.
Right.
People are that flew on the Concorde, which is out of service now, think they saw the curvature. Okay? They didn't. There's several things. One, you're looking through a curved window, so it curves the edges
concave.
a little bit.
Yeah, it's
But
concave.
the other thing is the way our eyes work, perspective brings everything together. 20 miles, the clouds above my head, 20 miles away are touching the horizon.
Right.
Okay. That's perspective. Okay. And so we can only see to that point of convergence, and on different atmospheric, different days, different elevations, you can see a certain distance, but whatever distance you can see wherever you are, it's the same in all directions. So I'm looking at 12 o'clock straight ahead. Let's say I can see 50 miles just for a number. It could be 5 miles. Right. It could be 500 miles. Doesn't matter. If I could see 50 miles, at 1 o'clock, I can see 50 miles, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, put a mark at all of those convergence points. I'm going to draw a circle around myself, like I'm holding a hula hoop over my head at eye level.
Right.
And that horizon is that curved horizon. And then our programming says sphere. I took a picture of my round dining room table where the lighting was just right. And I told everyone, I took out the background and everything. And I told everyone I had this big wooden ball, and it looked like a big wooden ball until I told them It was a dining room table. And then they're like, oh, it's flat.
Yeah.
So,
and it's funny. I see those pictures. I see pictures on the internet all the time on social media where they'll post something. I think the latest one I saw was the one, there's a car with rust on the bottom, and it looks like you're sitting on a beach in the ocean. And once you read it, you read the meme and you get to the bottom of it, and it tells you, well, this isn't your peaceful scene on the beach. This is just a car door. And all of a sudden you can see the car door versus before you were just looking at a nice, beautiful sunset on a beach. Again,
people say, what about the other planets? They're all round. And the thing is,
I've never been to another planet.
Right. The only images of planets that we have. And by the way, we can photograph Mars, and we can photograph all the other planets, except we can't photograph Earth. Okay. Right. That makes absolutely no sense. But so I say to people, look up at the lights in your ceiling and tell me what shape the floor is. And that's a ridiculous argument. Look at the balls on a pool table and tell me what shape the table is. Right. Mm-hmm. So what's above us has nothing to do with what's below us. So looking up at the sky to say, well, the moon sure does look round, therefore the earth is round. That's why they faked the moon landings, is because they wanted us to believe we could live on a ball. I'm showing an image. If anyone Googles photo of Pluto, this is the shot they gave of Pluto. And if you look, it has an outline of Pluto the dog from Disney on it. And Pluto the dog from Disney was created the same year as they discovered the planet Pluto. When in fact, the planets that we see are just, they're just lights in the sky. They're lights in the sky. And, our optics have outgrown their lives. We can now, with like a Nikon P900 or P1000 camera, can zoom in on these so-called planets, which used to be called wandering stars until NASA came around.
Right.
And we could see that they're pulsing orbs of intelligent energy with colors and patterns and geometric, sacred geometry shapes. And so what are they? Here's where we can go anywhere you want with this, but anything where we can't go, like the outskirts of Antarctica or above the height of an airplane, is pure speculation. The only true thing we can say about the things that we see in the sky is they're lights. Right. Because if they weren't lit, we wouldn't see them. That's all we can say. We can't say how big they are, how far they are. You can't say that because that's all speculation. Like the sun is, how far away is the sun in the heliocentric model?
Off the top of my head, I do not.
No, what's funny is the people that defend, and I'm not calling you out at all. And I was like everybody else. The people that defend the globe have no idea the ridiculous model that the globe is.
Right.
The sun is supposedly 93 million miles away. Okay. The way they figured that out is one day the Venus was going to transit the sun. This happened in the 90s, I think, or maybe even more recent than that. And people on the East Coast and people on the West Coast would see it start and transit at different times. Right. So they did some calculus and geometry and, some intense math, and they figured out how far it is because Venus is about the same size as Earth. And it started a minute and a half later in California than it did in whatever. The problem with that equation is all the math is absolutely right, but it started with an assumption that Venus is the same size as Earth. Okay. Right. Venus could be the size of a basketball. Okay. It could be.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know what it is.
Yeah.
So all of that is just garbage. It's all
Right.
garbage.
And then, I mean, I've looked through telescopes. I mean, I think most kids growing up, or even as an adult, there's always some kind of crazy event in space. We got to go run out and grab a telescope. And, I remember as a kid growing up and Halley's Comet, when Halley's Comet first went by when I was younger. And I remember I was in Oregon. I was in Eugene, Oregon. And there was a lot of different planetarium places up there where people were watching it. And we lived at the base of a hill right there in Springfield. And we all went up to the top of the hill. There's a big water tower, and there's a big place where everybody gathered where we could see Halley's Comet fly by.
What did it look like? Did you see a tail on it?
It was a giant light. It's just kind of like, a light with with a little tail. You barely kind of see it. And even through a telescope, there was a guy up there that had this super high-powered telescope. He was like one of the top scientists in Oregon, and everybody was kind of taking a turn, standing in line, kind of looking through his telescope. And I looked through the telescope. I saw a light and a little tail, and I didn't see it. It wasn't, to me, didn't stand out as like this big, amazing ball of fire shooting through the sky.
Right.
It was just basically a light with a stream of light, almost like you would see a reflection off of something in the morning, like in morning dew or something.
Somebody's taken some pictures of that and compared it to viewing a light shining down in water in a dark pool.
Kind of like I said, like morning dew, kind of a stream of light coming off it, almost like you took a hit of acid or something crazy,
And this whole tail thing, the sun is moving at 500,000 miles per hour. We're chasing the sun at 500,000 miles per hour, according to the heliocentric model. How come it doesn't have a tail?
Right.
With the movements of our solar system, the stars should not be the same night to night, one after one day, but they're the same decade after decade. As far as everyone can know, you go out on any night and a year later go out at the same time, the same night, the stars are in the exact
every time I pull a telescope
place
out and I look up in the sky, we're all, you always everybody has their one star they pinpoint by, whether it's Orion's belt or whatever it may be. Everybody's got a star that they kind of guide themselves by, whether it be for navigation or whatever. And you're right. It's interesting that the stars never change. Even when we have season changes, that we're supposed to be changing seasons and a different tilt of the axis, we're still seeing the same stars.
Here, let's talk about seasons for a second. That's one of my favorite topics. So we're taught that we have the ball, and because it's tilted away, the north, the top half is the north, it's tilted away. That stretches out the sunlight, so it's less intense. Great, that makes sense. Okay,
kinda.
And well, it does. The problem is that you can't, a ball can tilt in any direction. So the spinning of the earth creates, when the sun first shows up on the horizon, that's equivalent to a ball not tilted at 34 degrees, tilted at 90 degrees. Okay.
Right.
So the spinning of the earth in the morning, the sun is at the most severe angle. But on June 21st in the Northern Hemisphere, which is the summer solstice, when that sun shows up on the horizon, if you look at it and close your eyes, you can feel that heat beating on your face. And that's at like an 89-degree angle. Okay.
Right.
Okay. And then it'll just get warmer and warmer as the day goes on. Then wait 6 months later on December 21st. You can wait until solar noon on the December 21st. Now, the sun isn't as high as it gets in the summer, but I'm not comparing it to that. I'm comparing it to the sun at sunrise on June 21st, when you could feel that heat. At the height of the day on December 21st, when the sun is high in the sky, you can look at the sun and you barely feel the heat on your face. That is a more direct angle by magnitudes. And the reason that you don't feel the heat the same is because of distance, not because of the angle. And the other thing is, in the helio-nonsensical model that we all were sold, the sun is farther from us in our summer and closer to us in our winter, which is ridiculous.
Right, which is why is the snow not melting that's coming down from the sky and everything else? Yeah. It's really interesting because, again, I've looked at and researched a lot of this stuff, not as deep as you, obviously. I have not dove into the physics of it, the science of it, the math of it. But I love hearing the different takes on things, and even like the questions I'm asking, just the common sense, like what anyone's going to go to, photos, airplanes, the simple stuff.
Right.
But again, you have answers for that, and it all makes sense. You know, in comparison to what we know, what you're saying isn't something that could be ruled out as nonsense. It makes sense.
So they throw numbers at us. They throw all sorts of different just equations at us, stuff that people just don't understand. And I'm trying to adjust my air conditioning here.
Oh, you're good.
And so let's talk about the heliocentric model. So the sun is one of those big yoga balls. Okay.
Right.
You can't
The
get
big
your arms
giant,
around it.
yeah, the big giant exercise
And
ball.
the earth is a BB next to that.
Okay.
Okay. So imagine you're standing on the top of that BB, and the ball, the sun ball is a millimeter over your head. Okay. Is a mile over your head.
Yep.
So the size of the sun is a mile over your head. And you look up, the sun's gonna fill your entire sky, right? Horizon to horizon, it's gonna fill the entire sky and more, because it's just massively bigger than the earth. Now we're gonna move it 93 million miles away. That's where the sun supposedly is. And it goes from everything, and it becomes the size of a dime held at arm's length. Okay. So it reduced from the entire sky to the size of a dime held at arm's length. If I doubled that distance, it's got to keep getting smaller. Would you be able to see it? I'll make it easier. If I 8 times the distance, could you see it? Any logical, rational mind would say, well, it went from the entire sky to the size of a dime, and now I'm going to make it 8 times farther. Of course I couldn't see it. The angular size would be too small. Your eye can't resolve it, even to double the distance. But 8 times the distance is a light hour. Right. Okay? So they're telling us that we're seeing other stars, some bigger, some the same size as our sun, that are light years away. The closest star, they say, is over 4 light years away. I just described the light hour.
Right.
Okay. This is fantastical nonsense, but they make it so confusing that people just give up and believe authority.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, you look at the numbers, you know, people tell you look at the numbers. Well, unfortunately, the numbers that you have to look at to even try to calculate this stuff, you have to be a mathematician to figure out, because you're talking hundreds of millions and trillions and zillions, you know, and it's like, that's what they teach you in your science books in school. And it's like, it's not fathomable. So of course, like you said, you're going to just dismiss it and be like, I believe it. Okay. That must be right.
Dean, they tell us stuff and we have to believe it because somebody figured it out. No one figured it out. It's all just made up nonsense. Think about this. People don't even understand what a trillion is.
Right.
How long is 1 trillion seconds? Just take a guess. If you get it within 100 years, I'll pay you $100.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, man, the calculation would just go on in my head, really, to be honest with you.
It's 31,000 years.
Yeah, and I wasn't even close.
Yeah, think about that. 1 trillion seconds is 31,000 years.
Something that we couldn't even fathom because we haven't even been in existence that long.
I don't even
allegedly.
Yeah. Well, I don't think the Earth is.
That's a whole nother story.
The rabbit hole is so deep here. And by the way, we don't know everything.
Right.
We just know for a fact that we can see too far, that, you know, you can't break the second law of thermodynamics by having a vacuum next to high pressure. We can prove that we're not on a globe. All measurements show that that it's flat. We've done laser experiments across frozen lakes, microwave experiments. There's so much we've done, and all of it proves the Earth is flat. There's famous experiments that were been done over history to prove the Earth is spinning, and they all proved it's not spinning.
Right.
Okay. But they leave those out of school.
So what is it? I want to get back to the spinning part, because I've heard you speak on that, and it's very impactful the way you explain the spinning part. However, for the audience sake, what are we looking at? Like, when we think of the Earth then being flat and we start to believe that, what are we actually looking at between ground, atmosphere, sky? What are we actually supposed to be seeing according to what you're explaining?
What are we supposed to be seeing? So
does that make sense, or am I not explaining it good enough?
I think I can answer the question.
So basically, if I stood back to look at what we consider Earth now, what does what you're explaining look like compared to what we've been taught?
So if you could, the problem is, like, imagine you're in a room that is a mile wide with 10-foot high ceilings.
Right.
Okay. Could you take a picture of that whole room?
No.
You couldn't, right? So we're in a situation like this. So the Earth is a flat plane with a domed ceiling. Now, again, this is above our heads and out of our reach, so we can't confirm any of this.
Right.
But all experiments will show that, you know, the Earth is just think of it like a big lake. Imagine a lake in Kansas that is 10 miles wide, whatever, 20, 100 miles wide, doesn't matter. And there's a whole bunch of islands all around it. Those are all the continents. And in the center is a magnetic pole. That's the North Pole. It's actually a magnetic source. We'll just imagine a pole. Right. And you break out your compass, it's going to point towards the center. Okay. Now you want to go west. West is 270 degrees, but guess what? As you go, you have to keep taking a right-hand turn to keep that compass pointed towards the center. And if you keep going 270 degrees, you're going to make a circle around that lake, and you've circumnavigated the lake. Okay.
Right.
If you, I'm going to share my screen while I tell us. You can go west. You can circumnavigate, and then you can get back to where you started from. So what you can't do is go south. South is every direction away from the center.
Right.
Okay. So I'm showing on this app here, the Flat Earth, Sun, Moon, and Zodiac.
I'm looking at it, and what you're explaining is exactly right. Anywhere you would go would be south from center.
Yeah, any place you go from south to center. So billions of people have gone from California, you know, out to around to Japan, and then around to, you know, China and through Africa, and come all the way back to where they were, and they never changed lines. But they're going in a circle, and that's the same on a ball Earth too. It doesn't prove the Earth is flat, because you can circumnavigate both. The east and west are circles. That's just how a compass works. People don't realize that. Now, I can also go from, you know, America north over the center, and then as soon as I pass the center, even though I'm going straight, I'm going south because I've passed the north.
Right.
Nobody has ever gone south, and then no one's ever gone south and then come back up the other side. Ever. Right. You know, if people say, wait a minute, what about Colin O'Brady, a guy that
we hear about the guys that go across the ocean around the world. Yeah.
Yeah. So they literally go from like America down to South America. They go out into Antarctica, and then they turn around and they come back, and then they go all the way up to the north, and then they go back, and they call that circumnavigation. I mean, this isn't us speculating. This is plotting their trip on a flat Earth. They did not go from Santiago and show up in Australia or New Zealand.
Right.
No one's ever done that.
Yeah.
You know, if you want to fly from Santiago to Australia, you have to go all the way up to the northern hemisphere, and it's this big U on the globe. And it's like, why did you just cut across Antarctica or stay at the same southern latitude? But if you look at it on a flat Earth map, it's a straight line.
Right.
It's a big straight line. So, you know, flight paths make no sense on a flat Earth.
And so if I'm
on a globe Earth, sorry.
Yeah. And so if I'm supposed to go, if I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to go around the globe, I'm going to set a record. I want to go from Australia all the way around, which is going to cut me through Africa and part of the United States in looking at your picture here. So I want to go directly straight across. I'm going to cut through the North Pole. I'm going to go straight through Africa, head down to from 12 to 12, basically.
Right.
So you're saying from 12 to 12, I'm not going to come back around and end up, you know, if I keep going through Africa, I'm not going to end up back in Australia is what you're saying. The route will not take me that way. I will just basically be going in that circle to get to those two places.
Right. When you point, this is difficult. When you point west, you're pointing south.
Right.
That sounds crazy. Now, somebody's 5 feet from me. Yeah, they're west of me.
Right.
But if somebody's 500 miles from me, they're kind of southwest. If somebody's 1,000 miles from me, they're southwest. If somebody's 2,000 miles from me, they're dead south where I'm pointing.
Right.
And almost dead south. Because any straight line will land you in Antarctica. Antarctica is the shoreline around this lake. So we're back to the lake in Kansas. You've circumnavigated all the islands. Now you're going to go away from the center. You're going south, and you get to the edge of the lake. You're not going to fall off the lake. It's not floating in space. It's surrounded by land, and that's the highest land on Earth. Antarctica is the highest land on Earth.
Right.
So you get there, there's a ice cliff, you know, 200 feet high That's the ice wall. It's not like the Game of Thrones.
Right.
And then there's an ice, tundra that goes for hundreds of miles. And then there's a mountain range that's higher than Everest. They don't teach you that in school either. Okay.
Right.
What's out there? This is the funny part. Not the funny part. In 1957 or 59 or whatever there, end of the 50s, they all the nations in the world, Russia, everyone, they all got together and said, we have to protect the penguins and the ice because environmentalism, which didn't even exist back then.
Yep.
Right. That treaty is still in place. Nobody, no corporation, nobody can independently explore Antarctica. And you can't even question the treaty until 2043. Okay.
And it's crazy you mentioned that as well, because then I look back a few years ago, there was that big announcement where all of China, United States, and these different countries are all working in teams, research teams, to go down the south, to the south and explore the pole and explore areas that we've not in decades been able to do, which is interesting what you're discussing.
So again, people say, well, why don't you just, get some money and go? What are they going to stop you? They can't guard it all. Well, even if they let you, people have been stopped. People have been arrested. Boats have been sunk. You can't, even if you could take fuel, you're not allowed to take any fuel beyond the 60th south parallel, 60th south latitude. And even if they let you, it's dark, it's cold, there's no place to refuel. And you're not going to make it anywhere, even if they allowed you. And then here's the other thing. All of the nations are holding tight to this treaty through all of the wars, the Cold War, all of this nonsense, right? But we can deforest the old growth forests and plant palm oil trees, okay? Wake up, people. Yeah. They're hiding the true concept of our world.
So how far let's just, for the sake of conversation, if you reach this ice, you had fuel, you could go as far as, let's just say for the sake of the conversation, you could go as far as your fuel could take you, and you had all the fuel you needed. What would we see? Would it just be continuous tundra? I mean, is that what we're kind of imagining it would be?
You know what? Again, there's a huge mountain range that's been has been shown on documentaries. Admiral Byrd in the 50s said there's untouched lands by humans bigger than the United States. I think there's way more than that. Compasses don't work down there, and GPS doesn't work down there, and it's dark. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
Where are you going?
I'm just like, because it's like, okay, well, what would it be? And I mean, it's like you said, you get down there, it's called dark, it's cold. Maybe, who knows? Maybe is it just a tundra that goes on forever and it just gets colder and colder, or whatever? Or
I personally think, and again, as I said before, anything beyond our reach is speculation, that there is a dome over us that keeps us in our pressurized system. I believe that space is better described as ocean. It's waters. If you think about NASA, everything they talk about in space is done in nautical terms. Right. If you zoom in on these stars, they look like they're underwater. They look like lights underwater. Mm-hmm. And again, in the Bible, I'm not a Bible person. If anyone brought out the Bible, I would discount everything they said years ago. But the Bible in Genesis says God separated the waters from the waters and created a firmament. And Wernher von Braun, the head of NASA, the Nazi scientist that was brought over to head NASA, on his gravestone, he had Psalms 19:1, which is the phrase, the passage where it says God put a firmament over the earth when he created Earth. Why would the NASA rocket scientist put that on his gravestone? Right. It's his deathbed confession.
He's giving a little bit, but he's going to his grave with it.
Yeah.
So what is, where do you go from there? I mean, at this point, it's where do you, then we start getting into the question you originally spoke about is why? Then we start getting into the whys, and not so much, why are they doing this to I guess, deceive us? But why even bother? Why not let everybody try to, I guess, for lack of a better term, be a citizen scientist and figure it out?
So they want to control us. They want us not to challenge who are they, right?
A prime example is they want to control us. Just that statement alone reminds me of we're in a pandemic where everything is controlled.
Yeah. So here's the thing. If you can convince somebody that they're on a random speck in an infinite vacuum, they have no meaning, they're just a random chance because lightning struck one day. First, the heliocentric model, nothing exploded, created everything, and then it coalesced into rocky planets and gassy balls.
Right.
Gassy balls so big they can hold on to the rocky planets with their gravity. It makes no sense, right? And then lightning struck, created an amoeba, which is incredibly complicated organism, which grew legs and became a fish, and then it climbed out of the water, found another mutant fish, had sex, it had a monkey, and the monkey had a retarded baby, and it was a human, right? This is what you have to believe. It's utter nonsense. And so if you can believe all of that, you've given away your God-given senses. You've given away your ability to think. You've given it to others that say that they are better than you. They know they're here to control you. Govern is control, and ment is the mind. Government is controlling your mind. So if you believe that, you can be convinced of anything. Mm-hmm. You could be convinced that a crazy virus is flying through the air and it's going to attack you and kill you when in fact, I can guarantee
but not at Walmart.
Not at Walmart, or when you're sitting.
Or at a gas station when you're fueling your car.
Yeah. So again, without getting into the whole CV thing, that if there wasn't the mainstream media, would anyone know there's a pandemic? And what's the definition of a pandemic? A pandemic is, used to be, before Obama changed it, a disease that spreads worldwide and kills masses of people. Right. Now it's just a disease that spreads worldwide. Yeah. That's a whole nother show. Glad to come back and talk about that.
Hey, I got to get you back on later for sure.
So why this? Why this lie?
Yep.
Because if you knew what you really were, where you really were, why you're here, well, why, that's a bigger question. And you knew the power that you had, that the elite, for the lack of a better word, cannot take away your God-given rights. You have it's called natural law, right? No one is allowed to take it from you unless you willingly give it to them. So you believe that you live on the spinning ball that I just described, even though we've given you opportunity to see that everything NASA does is fake. We've showed you that it's fake. We've done it so bad that if you can't see it, that's on you. Okay. Mm-hmm. So now they've diluted creation. They've diluted it. They poured it into empty space. So you believe that, and then they tell you stories about dinosaurs and asteroids. So now we're afraid that an asteroid's going to wipe us out at any moment. There's always a new comet.
There's always a new one almost hitting us every year.
Yeah, there's one that
a couple times a year.
Yeah, there's one that looks like a jack-o'-lantern that's always around this time.
The last one was the size of a refrigerator that almost hit us a couple months ago.
Yeah. So you're afraid of that. You're afraid of terrorists. You're afraid of global warming. You're afraid of all of this stuff, which is all nonsense. They've got us believing that everyone hates other races when we don't. People, systemic racism is a manufactured thing.
I don't understand it in any way, shape, or form. I really don't.
Right. And it's all made up. So once you see that deception, the flat earth truth, the reality of the true earth, the globe lie, all of a sudden your eyes open and you stop giving away your power. People say, well, I still, it doesn't matter the shape of the earth. I still got to go to work, and that's also you giving away your power. Once you see it and you say, if they tell us in movies and TV shows and they always tell us, right, what they're doing. And if we don't say no, we're saying yes. Okay. Right. So just by saying, I do not consent, and stop giving your energy into it, everything changes for you. What they don't want you to know, here's the big secret, that your thoughts create your reality, and it could create it instantaneously if you didn't doubt yourself.
And there's been a lot of study on that. I know for sure. I've read a lot of articles on what our mind actually perceives as far as our reality.
Yeah. So you had a vision of the Two-Party Podcast and an vision of owning a guitar, right? Mm-hmm. And now look at yourself. Turn around. You're in a podcast room and you got a guitar. Yeah. But it was a thought before it was a thing.
Yep.
Okay. And there's times in your life where you're just in tune, everything's going right. You have that thought, it's going to happen, and bam, it happens. There's those times where you're thinking of somebody and then bam, there they are around the corner. You haven't seen them in 10 years.
Yep.
Okay. That's because you're allowing all of this information. Here's the thing. Our third eye, our pineal gland, is our Wi-Fi antenna, for a good way to describe it.
Yeah.
And it is our connection to source energy. And now a source energy, I say it's all of the lights in the sky are literally the projectors of our lives.
Right.
Okay. That's why astrology is the real science. Astronomy is nonsense. So you have, I forgot where I was going with that, but you have all of this information. Oh yeah, your pineal gland.
Mm-hmm.
They feed us fluoride and inject us with toxins that calcify our pineal gland and make it not work. They disconnect us from our true source of inspiration. They tell us that, 150 years ago, there was wagon wheels and no electricity and stuff. There was a well-advanced civilization here 150 years ago. In the 1800s, there was a reset that has changed everything. I mean, but they have us believing that we're getting smarter and smarter and smarter. We're getting dumber and dumber and dumber.
100%.
Idiocracy is a documentary.
Yeah,
okay?
Of our lives today, this day
Yes.
and age. Yes.
Yeah.
I 100% agree. Our society, while many people claim that our society is improving in technology and this and that and the other, we are not getting smarter as a whole. Our society has been dumbed down and watered down to the point of non-existent brain cells in some people. It's really sad to see it. Truly, like, I'm like blown away when I meet somebody and I'm just like, that's the best thought that's ever come out of that dude's mouth.
Yeah. It's amazing. But so here's the thing. I used to wake people up to all of the other deceptions, and they'd still just go back to work because it doesn't affect them every day. The knowing that the ground thinking that you're spinning, if you look,
this is the part I wanted to get at earlier is this part where you explain the spinning.
Yeah. So the motions of the earth is spinning at 1,000 miles an hour. That's 1.5 times the speed of sound. Okay. At the equator, you're spinning faster than the speed of sound. That there alone should tell you something.
I've been on carnival rides that scare the crap out of you when they start spinning like that.
But they say the earth is so big and it only goes around once a day, and you can't see the hour hand on a clock move, and it has to go around twice in one day. Well, that's because the clock is only a foot wide. Imagine a merry-go-round that's a regular sized merry-go-round that's going around once a day. You'd barely feel it moving, but you might be able to perceive it. Mm-hmm. But now expand that thing to 10 miles, expand it to 24 miles. It's going like a mile an hour now. And you can feel a mile an hour. Mm-hmm. Now expand it to 24,000 miles an hour. It's going to 1,000 miles an hour. And every minute your angular distance from your current horizon is dropping a mile. I think you would feel that.
Right.
That's just the spin of the earth. That's the slowest motion. Mm-hmm. It's orbiting around the sun at 66,000 miles an hour. That's a speed that you can't even comprehend. So mm-hmm. I'm not even going to explain it.
Right.
And we're chasing the sun at 500,000 miles an hour. Again, ridiculous. And that entire system is moving sideways at over 1 million miles per hour. Okay. But again,
through an atmosphere or an area of what we call space, it's supposedly doing that through this space that just is infinite.
Infinite. And the whole thing is expanding. And it's all just total nonsense. And once you see it, you wonder, how the hell did I ever believe that? Then you get depressed and then you get pissed off, right? And then all of a sudden you're like, okay, I am at the center of creation. This place was intelligently designed for me. Okay. Right. And then you can take that to the next level, who created it, why, those are things that I'm not even going to get into. Those are things that are fun to talk about, but you can prove that you are the center of creation, and then you get your power back, and then you realize that nobody can take it from you unless you're tricked into giving it to them. But they always have to tell us what they're doing. They can't put a bear trap in the woods and have it totally hidden without putting up a sign saying, hey, there's a bear trap in here. Mm-hmm. Okay. Sounds crazy.
Gotta have a disclaimer.
Yeah. They always, because it's karmic law. They like George Bush, horrible man, never killed anybody. He just convinced other order followers to kill other order followers. Right. Okay. And that's on them. Like if I convince you to go kill somebody, that's on you.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the why is amazing. So let me just go back to the apps. So a couple of years ago, if you Googled flat earth, you can there was hundreds of videos coming out every day, and you could really find information and learn about the flat earth. But then YouTube started censoring it. And literally, if you Google flat earth, you end up at the Flat Earth Society, as I said earlier, is complete controlled opposition. You land with a whole bunch of propaganda stuff, National Geographic, proving that the things are going over the curve. Nonsense. Everything they do is so ridiculous that we've taken them apart in every video. So I created an app. It's called the Flat Earth Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock app. It is, dare I say, it's the greatest app you can ever have on your phone. It shows you how everything works. If you look right now, the sun is off of the hour hand because we're in daylight savings time. But when we go back into daylight savings time, which is real time, the sun gets pinned back to the hour hand. So the sun goes around, it marks the hours, the moon marks the months, and the stars, if I turn on the stars mark the seasons, or mark, the whole year. So it's pretty amazing with that. And then the beautiful thing is on the bottom left, there's a featured video every day. There's a new video, longer ones on the weekends, shorter ones during the week. And I tell people, take the Flat Earth app challenge. If you think Flat Earth is stupid, get the app, watch the video every day for 2 weeks, and then your life's going to change because you're going to know that you don't live on a globe. And then the other thing is in here, besides all these other features, we have the question mark, brings us to the frequently asked questions. Where's the edge? What about boats over the horizon? What about boats over the horizon, or why the lie? And if you click any of those, it brings you to a YouTube video and then a whole playlist of other videos about those topics
that ties into it.
Yeah. Okay. All the questions that you guys have are answered in those questions. There's also other flat earth related links and interesting stuff. And then if you speak a different language, we have playlists in those languages too. It does a whole bunch. And what happens is people take the challenge. They go, hey, I heard you on the Two Party podcast, and I think you're an idiot, but I bought your app. It's $2.99, by the way.
Right.
I bought your stupid app, and I took the challenge, but I didn't want to wait. So I hit the archive button, which is right next to the featured video. And I haven't slept in 2 days. I hate you. The earth is flat. Now what do I do with my life?
Okay?
Right. And then they end up at the next Flat Earth conference. By the way, anyone that's listening that's in the South Carolina area, October 24th, we're having Flattoberfest. It's going to be an amazing one-day conference. If anyone's around, check it out at
we have listeners there. I have family there as well, so we do have listeners down there.
Where are you located? You're not down there?
I'm in Tulsa, Oklahoma, but I've got family out all through
South.com. Check it out. You can come. I'll be there.
Cool.
It's a mask-free environment, so if you are a person that needs to wear a mask, don't come.
or just be pointed at.
No. Don't come.
Don't come.
Just don't come. Just don't come.
No invite.
Yeah, you're uninvited.
That's great.
So again, the app is the fastest way to learn flat Earth. You can spend.
Is the app something you developed yourself, or have you worked with a team of people to do that? How did that app
I developed
come about?
myself. I have a programmer. I'm not the programmer. I just tell them what I want it to do. I create the artwork, and then they do the programming. I've been working on it every single day for 2 years now. And it's really great. Also, when you get the app, it's $2.99. It's a half a beer. If you go out and buy someone a beer, it's a half a beer.
Changed, right.
And then I will tell you, there's a pop button because they wanted to donate. Apple and Google Play will not allow donation. So I have a subscription. If you subscribe, the only thing that you get is you don't get that pop-up. Okay.
Right.
And the pop-up only shows up once every 24 hours, and you can exit out immediately. So you turn on the app, it pops up, you turn it off, you hit the X, and you're on your way. You still get everything. I only want people to subscribe when they say, Dave, you changed my life. Every day I get out of bed just so I can see what's on the app. I can't wait. Then you could support me with 99 cents.
Right. And that's important to mention because, there's a lot of apps out there that have a lot of garbage on them. And I know me for one, I have a million apps on my phone, and I go on that phone and you'll click an app and it has all these ads or it has all this crap on it. And it makes you not want to use the app. But with yours,
there's no ads. There's no ads.
Yours, it's very convenient that, like you said, it's once every 24 hours. You can exit out of that.
Instantly.
Right. So you don't have to look at it and you can move on about your day.
Right.
And then, like you said, these things take time, they take money, and research, life is short. Research takes time and money. So like you said, it's important that you want people to engage that are like, well, what you said did change me. You don't want people engaging just to challenge you forever, because you have enough time. You don't have enough time on this planet to really,
Right.
what we call the planet, the flat earth,
Plane.
whatever we want to call
On
the
this
plane.
plane. On
So
this
we
plane.
don't have enough time on this plane to sit there and just jerk around with people that really don't care or want to argue about stuff.
If you come across a video like a Nat Geo video that you think debunks the flat earth, just go on the app, and on the web button page, there's a debunked page. That
Right.
video will be on there, and we'll show you how it's so wrong. We're not just saying it's wrong, we're showing you
Right.
how it's
Bringing
wrong.
the facts to the table.
Yes.
Which in our society nowadays, nobody wants facts.
Yeah.
Everybody wants the media to tell them what to do, and then they just do it.
And Dean, by the way, people are like, you just want to be special. You just want to, nobody wakes up and says, hey, I want to be a flat earther, because that was synonymous with moron, idiot, fool.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I had a couple of my friends, and I still, Brad will chime in every once in a while, and he still does it. He still posts them, and we're in private groups on Facebook or something, and people are just hounding him. And I'm like, why do you do it to yourself, Brad? Why do you do it to yourself? And he's like, you've got to look it up. It's true. And again, I just haven't gone as deep as you have. And I haven't gone deep enough to hear the explanations like you've explained.
Yeah. There's so much more. Here's the thing. I don't expect anybody that's hearing this for the first time to go, oh my God, the earth is flat. You should be, oh my God, there's something I got to look into. Then you'll be like, wait a minute. He never explained how the sun sets. He never explained time zones. Well, go on the app. The answers are there. And you say, well,
take action.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. People go, well, where'd you learn that on YouTube? YouTube is a library of incredible information.
Right.
Lots of garbage, lots of good stuff. We have the good stuff. We have the explanations with visuals to explain it to you better. I mean, if I gave it to you in a text message or an email, we'd be going at it for a year, what I could, for months, what I could show you in a 5-minute video. Also, my YouTube channel is the initials for Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole, DITRH. And my videos, like a long video for me is 5 minutes. I have all short, great,
to the point. Yeah.
Good, to the point videos. So if you want to go there, it's good. I just recommend $2.99 and get the app, take the app challenge, and just one video a day is all I ask. And then it will change your life forever.
Where are some other places? You have the app, you have a YouTube channel, do you have a website? Do you have other places where our audience can reach you, or maybe do some other research to
you
get
can go to the flatearthpodcast.com has a bunch of information, some videos there. The app is literally the best. My YouTube channel, he can hit my playlists up there. Also, the Flat Earth Clock app YouTube channel. I don't really promote that, but a lot of the videos that are on the app are on that channel. Okay. So again, you don't have to spend the $2.99. But again, if you really want to look into Flat Earth, you can't do it without the app very well.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. You've taken all the tools and all the research and you put it in one place, and so it makes it very simple. And so, yeah, I would definitely encourage our audience to look into the app, get the app. Again, like you said, $2.99. I mean, that's a deal. I mean, you can waste your time with stupid free apps that make you dumber, or you can get something that actually gives you knowledge. Right.
Also, my YouTube is heavily censored now.
Always.
I'm sure, as you know.
Always.
So you can find my videos on BitChute and Library, and they're not all there, but they're more and more are going over there. So just keep an eye out. We stay on YouTube because that's where a lot of the sleeping people are. If you already are awake to Flat Earth, honestly, I'm done with you.
Right. Well, and like
I'm done with you.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm like, you get it. You're my friend
it's
now.
time for you to do the research, right?
You're my friend now. You got it. Let me help you out any way I can. But I want to talk to people that think Flat Earth is the dumbest thing on Earth.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's an important thing, because and through that communication, you're able to find people that maybe can present questions maybe you haven't seen or heard yet, and challenge you in that way so that you can then further your research.
Yeah. People will, again, when you hit somebody with Flat Earth, you're ripping their rug out from underneath them.
Right.
You're taking the foundation
the entire
of
reality. Yeah.
And people don't like that. People don't like change,
Or
honestly.
change or challenge. Yep.
Yeah. And so, but once you realize and you look at it and you say, okay, I'm going to start fresh and plant my feet on this earth. Earth is the foundation of the universe. It's the basement of the universe. Okay. And everything we see in the sky is within the earth system. It's not in the solar system. Okay.
Right.
They're taking you away from the creator. They want your soul. This is a spiritual war that we're in,
Yep.
which is insane. Again, 5-6 years ago, before I was into this, I'd be like, you're crazy. Yeah, that's the trick. People don't know who they are, where they are, or what war they're fighting in. And this is a war for our souls.
Well, I'm going to get off here, Dave, but it's
Right.
been great having you. I am going to have you back because I guarantee you I could probably have you on 20 more episodes and still pick your mind and get new information, right?
If you get feedback from your people, compile the questions and we'll answer every single one of them.
That's where I'd like to go. I'd like to go in the future with getting just all the hard questions put out there, and then you can just knock them out, hit the home runs.
Yeah, that'll be great.
One more time, go ahead and hit us one more time with everywhere anybody can reach you.
Dean, the best place is the Flat Earth Clock app. It's the full name is the Flat Earth Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock app. Long name, horrible name, hard to remember, but there was a reason for it. If you just search Google Play and the Apple App Store for Flat Earth Clock, it's the #1 hit. It's by Blue Water Bay. There's a couple knockoffs by some Globe shills that are using the same name. Horrible app, filled with ads. Doesn't give you the videos. It's just a mess. So Flat Earth Clock, it's the #1 hit by Blue Water Bay. My YouTube, Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole, just the initials, DITRH.
Okay.
And the Flat Earth Podcast, you can find me on any podcast platform. It's hosted on SoundCloud. It's on iTunes. It's on every podcast player can find it. That's also fun if you're driving and you need some audio.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Yep.
Yeah. It's really great. Start at the beginning. You go through, we're because of this whole situation the world is in, my co-host is in Canada. We've been getting very few episodes out, but there's plenty for you to get through, and every single one of them is relevant. And if you started at the beginning, that's the other challenge I give people. Go listen to 5 episodes and you'll be a flat earther.
There you go. Well, Dave, it's been great having you here. And again, I'm going to have you back for sure, but you've given us a lot of information, and I think it's when people give people information, there's 2 ways you can take it. You can take information in and you can throw it away, or you can take information in and you can actually try to work on your intelligence by actually researching and doing more research into the information you're gathering. And I'm always one of those that has always believed knowledge is key, and I always love looking into stuff and digging deeper into stuff. And so I think you've done that for the audience, and I think you've given them lots to look into. You've definitely given me lots to look into. So I look forward to having you back. And, I'll hopefully get this posted up. And I think I'm going to have to, we talked about this, but I think I'm going to have to put video up so people can really see the visual presentation you've presented.
Okay, yeah, I think I described the stuff, but again, anybody that wants anyone else that has a show that you want to have challenge me, I love being challenged. You can reach me at info@theflatearthpodcast.com. Keep your messages short. If you send me a novel, there's a good chance I won't be able to get to it. So great talking to you, Dean, and
for sure.
I'm looking forward to another high-level conversation.
For sure. You have a great day, Dave.
All right, thanks.
Later.